All right, Culture War here on Friday morning. And it's kind of been a theme of the show, but American bias in Europe seems to be a thing. And CBS documentary following Christian Pulisic aired the first episode this week. And there was a segment, what would you call it, a montage of folks, both hearing Weston and Christian discuss American bias themselves, and then hearing some other voices on it. What did you think of the show in general and the commentary on the American bias?
Well, I think we're going to watch the clip together, the one that CBS Golazo posted to social media, which, I watched the episode. Paramount sent me a screener, so I got a chance to watch it a little bit ahead of time. So it's been a while since I've seen it. But I think...
Should we give a language warning on this clip too?
Is there a language warning?
Well,
does it get
Christian.
spicy.
Christian.
Let's see. Because I don't think people expect Christian Pulisic to be spicy. So maybe we should let people hear it, Robert, rather than you. You're biasing people right now. Stop biasing people. All right, here we go.
Definitely a bias.
For sure, it's out there.
And it's just something that you get used to.
It pisses me off in a way.
I go through it most of the time whenever I'm at Juventus. Every year somehow I'm on the out and I'm ready to be discarded. And then, it's like every summer, it's like I'm a new player coming in, having to, make a name for myself.
If it comes down to me or them, and it's a 50-50 for the call from the coach who's going to play or something like that, I think it exists.
Well, the Americans, they've got no one really coming through. They haven't really got no great players.
I can't think of a top American coach I can name off the top of my head. I can't think of a top player. I can't think of anything that come out of America apart from the money.
No one's opinion is wrong, unless you're a USA fan.
If I was to ask anyone in this bar already what the starting 11 was for USA, no one would know.
They've been a bit better than I thought, but they're still shit.
That's where the warning comes in. Sorry for the 4-letter word from the English. Okay.
Not very
This
good.
is like your favorite content, and it's condescending English people. You love this, I bet. I can feel your skin crawling from here.
We haven't even gotten to the best part, Rob. Let's keep going because it's coming.
You name me one American player that you can name.
Not to be rude, but...
Okay, first of all, let me just say that's an
You can name the name. Name the name.
You name me one American player that you can name.
Name them, bro.
There we go.
Who are they? Who are they?
The Americans, I think they think the best at everything.
Let's play soccer. I want to play soccer. I played soccer since I was 2 years old.
When I saw this the first time, I thought of you immediately when I saw this.
I'm a nonviolent person. I mean, certainly never would consider, but it makes you so angry, right? It makes you so angry there.
I love the playing. I played soccer since I was 2. Hit a little close to home. I've heard so many people say that.
It's not even really that they don't think American soccer is good, right? I'm a reasonably I'm a reasonable person. I can see, and I've been covering and talking about American soccer for a very long time. Like, I'm very aware of the American place in the world's game. We don't have, to the point of the several blokes over there in the pub or whatever.
Name one name.
We don't have one name. We can't name one name. You can't name me one player that you can name. You can't name one player that you can name from America. I get it. Like I don't expect Landon Donovan to be in anybody's head over there. I don't expect Dempsey even, unless you're a Fulham fan, to be somebody that they point to. And even if they did say, well, Clint Dempsey was a good player, they wouldn't say he's a great player, right? He didn't elevate to the level that that English people are used to thinking about great players. I completely get that.
He was a player that played there.
That thing where it's like soccer or whatever that was, whatever that attempt at an American accent was, and I am offended. I am deeply, deeply offended. First of all, maybe I do know some people sound like that, but not exactly like that. That wasn't even really good. She was kind of slipped there. 2 years.
She had it for the first couple words.
It did fall apart. Got to keep working on that accent, babe. Okay.
Consistency is key.
I don't know. Okay, to the point of this. All right, there's a little bit more. Let me see what we got left.
It's football. It's not soccer. They got it wrong.
I don't think they know about football. They still call it soccer, don't they? Soccer. So
you agree that historically it's been more difficult for American players to break into Europe?
No, I don't believe.
To say there's never been a bias against American players out.
All right. I think that's pretty much all we got there. That's Clint Dempsey at the end, who obviously, again, would have some experience. And I think, Clint Dempsey's career is a reflection of having to prove, just like Weston McKennie is going through at Juventus, having to prove to different managers over and over again at Fulham and then at Spurs that he could play, that he wasn't a liability, that don't pick the European or the South American just because they're European South American. Like, I'm better than they are. The chip on Dempsey's shoulder was a big part of the reason he was able to succeed the way he did. And you do wonder, like, if Clint Dempsey wasn't American, would his career have gone differently? Would he have been at Liverpool before there was even talk about him moving from Fulham when he eventually ended up at Spurs? Because there was that. I mean, I find it impossible to believe, because Zlatan doesn't think there's a bias.
Yeah, I'm interested to hear what his follow-up comment to that was, because I feel like he was about to say something that might have been important.
Look, I think Zlatan's coming from the perspective of somebody who was an all-time great player. Mm-hmm. And for him, if you can play, you can play. It's easy for him not to think about where you're from, because he's already going to be on the field every single time the team is picked. Mm-hmm. Zlatan never had anybody come to him and say, well, you're not good enough because you're Swedish, or have that feeling. Because he was already in those systems. He goes to Holland, he goes to Italy, he goes to wherever he went, he was successful. Except for maybe the Barcelona stint. But he had the support of managers, he had the support of clubs, he had the support of fans. Look, I think it's ridiculous to think there's no bias. I don't know how deep it goes, and different clubs might be different in the way that it comes out, or the way that it is expressed, Rob. But it's insane to think there's no bias when Americans didn't, for a very long time, take the game seriously, and we didn't have players going to Europe, and we're still only 30 years removed from any Americans being in Europe, and we're only 20 years removed from anybody having any decent success to actually crow about, and that's probably Dempsey. Who else? I mean, who else do you say, oh, that's an American who succeeded in Europe?
I would say Tim Howard is probably one of the names. And Brad Friedel.
And goalkeepers, no offense to goalkeepers, but there's Americans are good with their hands. Therefore, the goalkeepers are going to be good. That makes sense to them. What doesn't make sense is that anybody could be an outfield player and be good and be American. Right?
Yeah. You're not wrong about that. And kind of to fine tune a question here, we didn't hear from him, but Timothy Weah, American. But do you think he faces the same kind of bias because of his last name?
Yeah, we were talking about this before the show. Tim Weah is a different case. He obviously sounds American when he speaks English.
But no one's going to deride him like you don't know anything about football.
He gets a pass, or he doesn't have the same stigma, because even though he's American and grew up in New York, his dad is a once upon a time Ballon d'Or winner. So, and that's an interesting thing, right? Like, it does feel like it's somewhat selective. Nobody looks at Anthony Robinson and goes, that's an American. What they do is they go, well, he represents the United States, but he's an English player, right? His pedigree is English. I think that is fascinating, this idea. And think about growing up playing sports in this country, like, those biases, not the exact same ones, but they were on display. It's actually very obvious in American soccer, now that I think about it. And this was true when I was growing up in the 80s and playing at a time when soccer was not a big deal here. And I know it's been true as recently as 10, 15 years ago when I was covering youth soccer tournaments. If you have an accent, you know more about soccer. If you have an English accent, a British accent, you are an authority. If you have an American accent, not so sure you know what you're talking about. And parents will pay a premium to have their kid coached by somebody who has an English accent. Now, that doesn't mean that every one of those people is a fraud, or that there aren't very earnest and very, very important people that have come over and helped grow the game. I think that's definitely true. But I do think there's a lot of this natural inclination to think if you're English, you're a better soccer player, or you're a smarter coach, or you know more about the game. It comes out in our broadcasting, right? People in this country like it better when there's an English accent on their broadcast. That's just a thing. And it goes the other way. It's the opposite effect in Europe. You're American? Well, you can't know shit.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong there at all. And to that point, How different would the treatment of Christian Pulisic be if he had the Croatian passport and used it to represent Croatia? Would it just be kind of a footnote that he was American if he represented Croatia?
That's interesting. I like the thought experiment. We obviously can't prove either way. I think that if he had decided to represent Croatia, and then we do have some kind of examples like this. Neven Subotic,
The goalkeeper.
Rossi. Yeah, Rossi comes to mind as well. Those guys choosing to represent other countries means that them being American is definitely secondary. Because, when you see Giuseppe Rossi plays for Italy, you don't go, oh, well, yeah, but he's American. Most people wouldn't think. I mean, they might know, but I don't think that they're applying that Americanness to him in the same way. So I think if Pulisic decided to represent Croatia instead of the United States, he would have been the Croatian player who grew up in the U.S. And I think the treatment would have been different. I think. I mean, although you can say that Pulisic is sort of the unicorn here, he is the exception to this in many ways. Now I know he talked about in the clip that he thinks there was some bias against him or has been, and I don't doubt that that's happened, but it's certainly not the same level as it's been for a lot of players, because he went to Dortmund as a kid, right? As a 16-year-old, he had the passport because of his Croatian heritage to go in and join a club early. And if you do that, it changes the dynamic, I think, pretty significantly.
Yeah, agreed there. So one thing I also enjoyed about the clip that we watched from that the CBS show Pulisic was that Weston addressed that pretty frankly about his situation at the club that he's currently in.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't often, or players don't often talk about their current situations like that. And he openly admitted, like, I come back here every summer and they move my parking spot and I'm out in the wilderness like a new player. But like if people or if other players from other nationalities had that many appearances for the team, would they necessarily be a cast-off when he comes back again?
Yeah, that's so again. Is the issue that Weston McKennie's American, or is the issue that Weston McKennie slips in his fitness, or that Weston McKennie is an odd character sometimes? Like, we don't know. We can't know for sure, right? Like, it seems somewhat unfair to accuse Thiago Motta or anybody else that Weston McKennie's played for of some massive American bias, and that's the only reason that McKennie isn't in the team on a more regular basis. I don't know, but I think it's possible that that's part of it, and it can be very subconscious. It doesn't have to be out and out. Well, he's American, he can't play. It can just be a sense that these managers have that if you are coming from a better football culture, right, a more rich football culture, you're going to be more successful at that level, or you'll be more adaptable to a new system, or you'll whatever it is, you'll understand the game more innately. I think that's definitely a thing. It's interesting to me that these players are speaking out directly, not he's Weston McKennie's not going to the press to make a big point of this and yell about it, but when he was asked for the documentary, he frankly said it as you described. Christian Pulisic wrote a book, or had a book ghostwritten about him, in which he criticized Thomas Tuchel while Thomas Tuchel was still managing Chelsea. Now, I think Tuchel was quickly fired after that. It had nothing to do, I don't think, with the book. But Pulisic was clearly not saying, well, I gotta hold this in, I gotta keep this to myself, my criticism of my manager. I don't think that was directly about American bias, but I think it was Pulisic saying, you've treated me poorly. And clearly, if he's talking about it here, this is sort of an undercurrent thing for some of these guys, that they think that being American has been used against them.
So the show Pulisic, are those shows debuting weekly? Is that a weekly show?
No, I think the first episode is out, and the next couple don't come out until January, is my understanding on that.
Interesting stuff. Pulisic, I mean, first episode giving us a decent amount to talk about. And if you're new to the show, thank you for tuning in. Click the subscribe button, get in, and join the MK Ultras as we stampede towards 500 and then the eventual 50,000 subscribers. Or follow along at MKickground on the social media. Write us a note, morningkickground@gmail.com.